After getting back together with Dominic, everyone around him said, ID changed. I used to be notoriously high maintenance. ID demand to check his phone cling to him like a conjoined twin and require him to account for every little thing. It wasn't he until I nearly drowned in the chasm of our class differences that I suddenly realized everyone in his circle thought I wasn't he good enough for him. Later I became his mistress. Obedient and attentive, I dared not speak of love, most skilled at trading sweet nothings for his banknotes. Yet he seized my hand and asked why I no longer loved him. When I reunited with Dominic, I was drinking with investors. Because of the investment loss, I was scolded, mercilessly forcing a smile while drowning myself in alcohol. I rushed to the restroom, gagging myself to vomit until my eyes turned sore and swollen. At that very moment, I locked eyes with Dominic. Surrounded like the moon among stars, he walked through the crowd, never lacking people fawning over him. In a daze, his gaze swept over me lightly, as casually as one would glance at trash. I remembered how during our breakup, I had stomped my feet and screamed at him, "What is so great about having money?" Now, after being beaten down by society countless times, I finally understand having money is truly everything. After the breakup, I somehow ended up in this miserable state, and now my ex has seen me like this. When I pushed open the private room door again, the previously aggressive investor was now fawningly addressing him as President Dominic. The investor extended his hand, but Dominic didn't shake it, creating an awkward moment. The investor was party A while Dominic was party A's party A. I couldn't afford to offend either, so I had to play the role of a tactful small fry. My apologies, I failed to recognize Mount High right before my eyes earlier. I didn't realize it was President Dominic. Let me punish myself with 3 drinks first. The pungent white liquor spread through my mouth, suppressing that insignificant pang of heartache. The investor's expression softened slightly as he withdrew his hand. Dominic asked me bluntly how much more money I needed. By then my company was on the verge of collapse. The startup phase was burning through cash the fastest, and my eyes lit up with renewed hope. At this very drinking gathering, Dominic signed the investment agreement with a grand flourish. I don't seem to have your contact information yet. From now on, you'll report the company's operational status directly to me. He capped the pen, clasped his hands together, and looked at me with composed ease, the very picture of someone in a superior position. I quickly pulled out my phone, expertly playing the role of a sycophant. I re-added that WeChat contact I had once blocked, even vowing never to interact with again. I knew it wouldn't be that simple. Sure enough, he messaged me immediately. "Come find me when it's over." I treated myself like a piece of meat ready for slaughter, meticulously rinsing my mouth, then masking the alcohol scent he hated most with perfume. Then I tapped on his car window and flashed him my sweetest smile. That day, I traded my body for resources. It's no big deal, I tell myself. I must climb to the top by any means necessary to make the company thrive. Some dignity was always destined to be sacrificed. During this reconciliation, Dominic didn't say a single tender word. He kept a stony face the entire car ride, leaving me to rack my brains for conversation. Then in the heat of passion, he gripped my chin and smiled cruelly. "I knew you'd come back to me." He stroked my hair with the same absent-minded affection one might show a puppy. "Be good from now on, and don't talk about breaking up again." After that day, I moved into Dominic's house. I was somewhat shocked. After 3 years apart, the layout of his home hadn't changed at all. The lemon tree on the balcony, which I had originally bought, had grown a little taller now. The display shelf still held the cheap knickknacks I'd randomly purchased back then, looking rather absurd. The note I once wrote him on the refrigerator has yellowed and faded. "Piggy baby, I love you so much. Made breakfast for you. Don't forget to eat. Planning to think of you 100 times today. Kisses." I shuddered, shaking off a wave of goosebumps. The walk-in closet was nearly empty, with Dominic's clothes occupying just one section. All the bags I hadn't taken when we broke up were still displayed inside. There was a sense of both strangeness and familiarity. "Don't overthink it. I rarely come back here. Just forgot to throw some things away," Dominic added. I remembered how I used to test my place in his heart by making a scene over every little thing. So none of Dominic's friends like me. When we broke up, his childhood friend Rebecca bluntly said I was too self-absorbed, and Dominic didn't refute it. Looking back now, I was being naive. You can't demand both money and love. We were inherently unequal from the start. I nodded calmly, even managing to smile at Dominic. "It's already an honor that Dominic could keep these things. I was immature back then. Please don't take it to heart." Dominic's expression visibly darkened. He seemed about to say something, but ultimately remained silent. 3. I only brought a handful of outfits with me, nothing but identical work suits. The walk-in closet stood empty. Truth be told, this was a lesson learned from our last breakup. That day I discovered Dominic's family was selecting a fiancé for him, and he hadn't objected. My tears gushed forth like a fountain flowing without end. I kept sniffling between sobs, looking ridiculous and pathetic, as if preventing my snot from running down was the last shred of dignity I could cling to. Dominic and his group of friends sat at home watching me crouch on the floor, stuffing clothes into my suitcase, one piece at a time. Their eyes held silent pity and mockery. Rebecca even grabbed my hand. "Dominic having a fiancé won't affect your relationship. In this circle, everyone turns a blind eye to such things. It's just how things are. You should be considerate of him." I yelled that it was disgusting, that they were all insane. Then, under their watchful gazes, I dragged my unbearably heavy suitcase, inching step by step toward the door. That day my love and dignity shattered into pieces, so I swore never to let myself fall into such humiliation again in this lifetime. "Have someone come to the house tomorrow to take your measurements. You need more dresses." Dominic frowned as he looked at the empty walk-in closet. I was about to refuse, but then it occurred to me this meant more presentable outfits for client meetings. So, I turned around, wrapped my arms around Dominic's neck with exaggerated sweetness, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Alright, thank you, President Dominic. The smile on Dominic's face froze as he stared at me for a long moment. You never used to call me President Dominic, don't you think that sounds too distant? In the past, I had given him countless affectionate nicknames. Piggy, honey, little Dominic, I used to call him by all these pet names. Now, when I think about it, it feels both nauseating and cringeworthy. Later, I discovered that all his family and friends simply called him Dominic. This form of address, he never once mentioned it to me. Just as he never brought me into his social circle, I remained forever the bewildered outsider. I turned around and smiled at him even more sweetly. Sorry, Dominic, I wasn't paying attention to the details. Dominic's expression darkened further as he walked out without a word. This hard-to-please bastard. For enemies crossed paths, often the very next day, right after I finished playing tennis with a client, I ran into Rebecca and Dominic together. A flicker of embarrassment flashed through her eyes. After all, things hadn't ended well between us back then. I always felt Dominic was way too close to her. They could share the same drink, wear the same clothes, and Rebecca could even pick his future partner for him. I thought it was too much of an overstep, but Dominic was annoyed that I cared about these things. I would never consider a girlfriend more important than my social circle. After all, you have nothing to offer me and bring nothing to the table. During past arguments, Dominic once spoke his drunken truth, while I dug my nails into my palms holding back tears. Poverty is humiliating enough. Being with someone who doesn't love you only deepens that humiliation. Look how much I've grown now. I can curse Rebecca in my heart while rushing over with exaggerated delight to hug her. The client hasn't gone far yet. I want him to see clearly that I'm close friends with the only daughter of the Rebecca family. Rebecca hugged me back, even though I knew she was rolling her eyes hard in her heart. Dominic said in the group chat that you two got back together. I'm so happy for you. I've missed you so much, Olivia. She gave me an exaggerated air kiss, completely ignoring Dominic's confused look at us. I used to care a lot about the fact that childhood friends like them had their own separate group chat. Dominic wouldn't pull me into their conversations, replying to their messages faster than to mine, discussing topics I couldn't blend into. Now I've learned to wisely stop keeping score. I was so immature back then, spoke without boundaries. That's why I felt too embarrassed to reach out to you later. Bestie, you won't hold it against me, right? I hypocritically grasped her hand as if we were the closest friends in the world. How could that be when Annie was looking for a fiancé for Dominic? She even called me over to help vet the candidates. After looking them all over, I still think you're the best. Rebecca always spoke with layers of meaning beneath her words. Just a casual remark, yet she effortlessly let me know that she held significant standing in Dominic's family and that after our breakup, he was still searching for a suitable marriage alliance. I don't have any arranged marriage prospects, nor have I met anyone. After the breakup, Dominic had grown too learning to stoop to offering an explanation. He pushed the freshly served ice cream toward me. Rebecca scooped a spoonful first. Vanilla flavor tastier than my matcha one. She narrowed her eyes and smiled at Dominic. Then Dominic handed me the spoon he had used. The Dominic family is wealthy beyond measure. Couldn't they afford an extra ice cream? Must we really share saliva? I used to love sharing food with Dominic, but looking back, now I attribute it to a lack of hygiene awareness. I'm really at my limit right now. Keeping a straight face, I subtly pushed the ice cream toward his side. Sorry, Dominic, I can't have anything cold during my period. Dominic waved over a waiter and ordered a hot chocolate for me. If I remember correctly, Olivia should be allergic to chocolate. Rebecca stopped him. Dominic stared at me in shock, wanting me to confirm it. Even Rebecca knew about this. So how careless was Dominic when he was dating me? Fortunately, I've learned to manage my expectations, no longer holding out hope for him, and thus no longer feeling disappointed. 5. As I left the tennis court, I caught sight of a familiar figure on the court. Steven. My best friend Paula's favorite tennis player. I casually took out my phone, snapped 2 photos, and sent them to her. She immediately replied with a string of awe. I chatted and laughed while scrolling, but when Dominic leaned over to peek at my phone screen, I instinctively switched apps. The smile at the corners of his lips vanished, and his whole body radiated irritation. Can't have the sugar daddy getting angry now, can we? I took the initiative to hold his hand. I'm sorry, I'm just not used to people looking at my phone after work. I didn't mean to. I've learned that those in the inferior position can't afford to be willful. You have to take the initiative, be more submissive, to maintain the balance in the relationship. After all, I've gained quite a few benefits from him, so it's not a loss. Why won't you share these things with me anymore? Dominic intertwined his fingers, with mine, lowering his head to ask me. I used to tell him everything about the sunset. I saw the foul-smelling taxi. I got into the especially adorable puppy I petted. When I loved him most, I always had this overwhelming urge to share, even when his responses were few and far between. I held his arm and gave it a gentle shake. You're too busy with work. I couldn't bear to disturb you. Truthfully, I just couldn't remember him anymore. Dominic stroked my hair without saying a word. From that day on, he started texting me like a man possessed. While I was dining with a client, he sent me a photo with just 2 words, lunch. A question mark popped into my mind. Why was he sending me this? With the client still present, it would be even impolite to check my phone. Only after seeing them off did I find time to reply. Perfect mix of meat and veggies, awesome. The phone buzzed again while I was driving. Business dinner tonight, will be home late around 11 p.m. Don't wait up. Dominic added another message. I hate socializing, I replied to him, barely suppressing my irritation. I hate it too, drink less and take care of yourself, crying. Only after our positions were reversed did I finally realize just how annoying my constant messaging had been in the past. I quickly messaged the company's programmer to connect an AI reply assistant to my WeChat. Let the AI replace me and be the perfect girlfriend who responds instantly. 6. Dominic came home slightly tipsy. Though he said not to wait up, I still prepared hangover soup and sat in the living room ready to embrace him the moment he returned. Dominic smiled at me, loosening his tie with one hand, his features relaxed. It was the first time he'd smiled at me like this since we got back together. I felt a little dazed, as if I'd been transported back to when we first met. I sighed inwardly. If only life could always be like the first meeting. He lifted me up, his kisses falling on my neck as his breathing grew heavier. So good, so obedient. After you left, I imagined this day, countless times, you waiting at home for me just like before. My lips smiled, but my eyes were cold. From his perspective, it used to be me waiting obediently for him. But Dominic, do you know how much anxiety and sorrow I endure every night waiting for you to come home? You don't reply to my messages or answer my calls. I know there's another more dazzling world out there for you, one without me. I'll sit quietly on the sofa and cry for a while, glance at the clock, secretly check your WeChat steps and Rebecca's moments, just to guess how much longer until you return. In my mind, I imagine breaking up with you, watching you kneel and beg me not to leave, but I can't bear the thought of us ending like this. I loathe myself for being so pathetic, yet I can't break free. All of this is because I love Dominic, but he neither sees nor cares about any of it. Could you reward me a little? A small hint, I'm a bit short on cash lately. I softened the coldness in my eyes and leaned against Dominic's chest, focusing intently on extracting what I could from him. Our limbs were entwined, pressed tightly together as his warmth seeped into me. Are you satisfied with this figure? His phone automatically shut down right after the transfer was completed. Counting the zeros behind the number, I rose with a beaming smile and went to the kitchen to heat up his hangover soup. My phone's dead, use yours to call my assistant, Dominic said to me in the living room. I acknowledged him, but there was no response for a long time. When I came out with a hangover soup, I found him staring at my phone with a dark expression. He held the phone up to me, and only then did I realize he'd discovered the auto reply assistant in my WeChat. He cursed under his breath and hurled his phone across the room with a loud bang. So you've just been stringing me along all this time? His eyes burned crimson as he grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to meet his gaze. Why are you always so distracted? What the hell am I to you? 7 arguments are endless and meaningless. I learned this truth during our last relationship. Every time I accused Dominic of being perfunctory or not caring about me, he would show an impatient expression and ask what I wanted now. It turns out our love was unequal from the very beginning. It's only natural for him to brush me off, but if I treated him the same way, it would be the greatest injustice. So I held him close, extinguishing his anger with a night of passionate lovemaking. In the heat of the moment, Dominic cupped my face. Do you still love me, Olivia? He buried his face in the crook of my neck, leaving a deep hickey. I want you to treat me like you used to. I closed my eyes briefly. You're drunk, go to sleep. I was exhausted, devoid of dignity, and all too practiced at forcing myself to comply. But at least for now, I don't want to say things against my heart anymore. I quietly got up to clean, but he grabbed my wrist. The bag I gave you, why have you never carried it? I put on my clothes, buttoning them up one by one. His words barely finished before he fell asleep, his eyelashes casting thick shadows in the hollows of his eyes like an angel. Yet when awake, he would say so many hurtful things. When I made a scene about breaking up with him, he swept his cold gaze over me from head to toe. Equality, what makes you equal to me? Every single thing on you was bought by me. So I threw the necklace and bag at him while crying as he watched me with a mocking gaze. The lingerie was bought by me too, keep undressing. A crushing sense of humiliation drowned me. So I learned my lesson. I gave all the bags he gave me to clients to maintain my own connections. I kept telling myself to behave, to be even more obedient, to squeeze more benefits out of him. After all, that was the whole point of getting back together. Yet muscle memory is hard to rewire, and I still clung to my strange affected sensitivities. Dominic and I silently agreed never to mention that night's argument again. He stopped texting me too, leaving only an endless stream of transfers in our WeChat chat. Until my birthday that day. 8. I used to be someone who placed great importance on rituals. Never missed a single one, whether major holidays or minor anniversaries. Young girls have all the time in the world to squander. I love finding every excuse to celebrate with Dominic and spend time with him. Dominic, however, is the complete opposite of me. He would say, Olivia, can you stop being so annoying? Olivia, if you want gifts, just say so. Olivia, our lives are different. My hourly rate is millions of times yours. After we broke up, I started working and building my own business. With less free time, I began to see things from his perspective and finally understood Dominic. My schedule was so packed that I even forgot today was my birthday. After trying for a long time, I finally secured a dinner appointment with Steven. He recently won an international championship and is at the peak of his fame, having become one of the most influential athletes overnight. I wanted to persuade him to endorse my company. In stark contrast to his aggressiveness on the tennis court, Steven was quite refined in daily life. We had a delightful conversation and finalized the collaboration details that very evening. General Manager Olivia, this isn't our first meeting. He extended his hand for a handshake. I smiled at him. I remember that time at the tennis court. Steven shook his head much earlier than that. Lost in my confusion, I didn't notice the camera in the distance. 9. Someone photographed me having dinner with Steven, and it became a trending topic that very night. My eyes lit up with an idea after getting approval from Steven's team. I kept fueling the hype around this topic. Announcing the collaboration during peak traffic hours maximizes its impact. But another force was competing with us with resources on a completely different scale and quickly suppressed this trending topic. The heavens refused to comply. Frustrated, I returned to Dominic's place. Where have you been? The room was pitch dark and silent. When I turned on the light, I found Dominic sitting gloomily on the sofa, his expression sullen. A lopsided cake sat on the table before him. Sorry, have you been waiting long? I tried to take his hand, but he pulled away. I must be out of my mind to bake you a cake myself, wanting to celebrate your birthday properly, only to find you dining with someone else, without even a single call to me. He screamed at me, hysterically, his eyes rimmed red. We stared at each other in silence. I suppressed my displeasure for a moment, but ultimately couldn't hold back, frowning at him. Making something by hand doesn't make it precious, that's what you taught me. It wasn't as if I hadn't tried this before. I'd given Dominic hand-knitted blankets, DIY cookies, homegrown cherry tomatoes, all carelessly tucked away in some corner by him. They went moldy before ever being used. What did Dominic say back then? Olivia, when will you understand that the value of something is determined by the socially necessary labor? Time. Stop trying to argue with me about how precious the things you make are. The whole time I was making these, I kept thinking of him, my overflowing love, all these things that meant nothing to him. I've finally grown up, having learned from him the principle of don't be sentimental. Now I returned those exact words to him verbatim. Why does something you made yourself suddenly become precious again? Because you're President Dominic, because you're high above me, born to tower over me, is that it? That lopsided cake chose this moment to collapse, becoming even uglier. Dominic's chest heaved as he rushed over and embraced me. I'm sorry, you've actually been blaming me all along, haven to you. His cheek pressed tightly against mine, our tears mingling together, salty and bitter. I'll try to see things from your perspective from now on. You still love me like before, don't you? Let us make this work, okay? His arms bound me tightly as he kissed me with near plundering intensity. Perhaps there was a moment when I wavered, but his next words doused me with cold water. I was so jealous of Steven. Now I know how you felt when Rebecca and I were together. As he spoke, the tremor in his chest traveled through to me. So, I immediately had my assistant take down that trending topic. Don't worry, I've handled everything. I broke free from the brief moment of tenderness and abruptly sat up to look at him. Dominic reached out to touch my face, but I violently shook him off. Then came a sharp slap across his face. 5 distinct fingerprints emerged on the skin. So, it was you. Dominic stared at me, his expression a mix of shock and humiliated fury. Have you lost your damn mind? I struck him again with a backhanded slap. I'm warning you, work is my bottom line, don't interfere. If there's next time we're completely done. I pushed Dominic away and left his house. Fortunately, having learned from our last breakup, I hadn't left any important belongings at his place, so I could walk away without a second thought. Love really does make people fawn on those above and trample those below. Back then, Dominic took advantage of my love for him to torment me as he pleased. After getting back together, if he didn't text me, didn't bake me cakes, didn't let me detect any signs of his affection, I would have kept treating him like a sugar daddy forever. But once love is exposed, it's like handing someone a knife yourself. We would become reckless with our words, lose all sense of boundaries, and hurt each other like madmen. In the end, it turns out Dominic and I are quite similar. For a few days, I stood my ground. Then the company's funds ran tight again, instantly knocking me back to square one. What a mess. Look at this, how embarrassing. I cursed myself for being blinded by rage, for failing to recognize who truly held the upper hand, then immediately swallowed my pride and sent Dominic a long string of conciliatory messages. A full day later, he condescended to reply with just 6 words. Wait for me at the company building. That bastard, I cursed him in my heart, even as my fingers instantly tapped out a reply. Okay, just as I reached the entrance of his company building, it started pouring rain, and I almost got drenched like a drowned rat. The security at Dominic's company was extremely diligent, saying I couldn't go upstairs without a prior appointment. I tried calling Dominic, but no one answered. That petty, vindictive bastard. I stared at my phone, wishing I could tear Dominic to pieces. Olivia, what are you doing here? The rain suddenly stopped above my head. I opened my eyes and met Steven's gaze. The umbrella. Something suddenly occurred to me. That was the first time my father took me to watch a junior tennis match. The disparity in skill was vast, leaving little suspense about the outcome. Nearly the entire crowd was cheering for the other player. Steven lost miserably, walking off the court alone with his oversized tennis bag. All the interviews and applause were focused on others. He stood there isolated with nothing to his name. It just so happened that a heavy rain began to fall on the court. Feeling somewhat sorry for him, I ran over and handed him an umbrella, saying I'd been following his matches and asking if he could give me an autograph. A white lie, but Steven looked up in pleasant surprise and solemnly promised me he would play even better in the future, so as not to disappoint me. So it's you I remember now, you're really amazing. My eyes lit up as I smiled at Steven. Back then, I was completely unknown. You were the first person who ever asked for my autograph. He handed the umbrella to me. Several of my friends are quite interested in your company. If you're looking for funding, you don't necessarily have to go through President Dominic. I can make some introductions for you. My eyes lit up again and again as I nodded at him like pounding garlic. Actually, Dominic was never the right one for you. Steven was about to continue speaking when I cut him off. Quick question, helping me like this, do you have feelings for me? Time is precious and I no longer have the time or energy for ambiguous entanglements with others. Steven froze for a moment, his eyes crinkling with amusement. What if I said yes? I handed the umbrella back to him. Then I'll have to keep my distance from you. Awkwardness hung thick between us. When the phone rang at just the right moment, Dominic's voice came through, icy and detached. Come up. I looked up and saw him standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows on the top floor, glaring at us with a dark expression. 11. The red mark on Dominic's face hadn't faded yet, so he wore a mask. I felt a faint urge to laugh as I met his tightly furrowed brows, but in the end I didn't let the laughter escape. Feeling better, Dominic, my heart aches for you. I'm so full of regret, I don't even know what came over me. My fingers traced his face. Dominic snorted coldly, but ultimately didn't refuse letting me remove his mask. Don't be mad, okay, baby, I know I was wrong. I pitifully wrapped my arms around his waist, stood on tiptoe, and kissed his lips. Was I really wrong if I hadn't called you just now? You could chatted with Steven until the end of time. Dominic pulled me into his embrace. The only trick that works when he gets jealous. I locked his office door, turned around, and smiled at him. Haven we done it here before. Dominic's arm around my waist suddenly tightened. I slowly unbuttoned his shirt, my fingers trailing downward as I breathed softly into his ear. But baby, my company hasn't been doing well lately. I haven't even had the mind to properly date you. It's not that I'm deliberately being distant. Dominic laughed, his eyes spelling out I knew it. Truth is, you never loved me. You just love money, don't you? He gripped my waist, masking the desolation in his eyes. What's the difference? I only love my Dominic's money. I wouldn't even take anyone else's. I leaned against his shoulder as he carried me to bed, earning another hefty sum in return. No loss, except when we looked at each other, our eyes were hollow and empty, as if seeing right through each other, yet soberly sinking deeper. 12. When Dominic invested in my company, there was one additional condition. I had to accompany him to meet his friends. He must have said something in advance, for those friends who had previously been rude to me all restrained their expressions and respectfully called me sister-in-law. So he could have done it all along, he just didn't want to take me seriously. I greeted each of them one by one. Nowadays, I no longer dwell on these details, adding each of them on WeChat as I go. They're all this director or that CEO, who knows when they might come in handy someday. Even if it's just a like on social media, at least it keeps me somewhat visible. Dominic kept playing with my hand, turning it over and over. Don't chat with them too often. He whispered in my ear, I'll get jealous. His childhood friends burst into laughter, while I felt a chill run down my spine. Finally realizing how cringe-worthy my past declarations of ownership were, it's actually kind of disgusting. Money as hard to earn, and shit as hard to swallow. 13. Just as the company was finally gaining some traction, Dominic's mother came to see me. I secretly wondered in my heart what she would say to me. Would she throw a wad of cash in my face like in a TV drama and tell me to leave Dominic? If the amount was substantial enough, I might actually consider it. I went to the dinner prepared for a fierce battle, but Dominic's mother started by talking about my company. I repeated the same pitch I'd given to investors word for word to Dominic's mother, gesturing animatedly as I spoke. This company was built from scratch by me, from industry prospects to competitor analysis. I know every detail inside out. If you're interested in investing, I'd be very welcoming. I added that us wonderful, I admire women with their own careers. Dominic's mother abruptly changed the subject. But we all think you and Dominic aren't well suited. I rested my chin in my hand, waiting for her to continue. If we break up, how much money are you planning to give me? She froze for a moment, then burst into laughter. I hadn't finished speaking. We thought it wasn't suitable, but Dominic insisted. You really are a special girl, so we let him have his way. Dominic's mother slipped an extremely valuable imperial green jade bracelet onto my wrist. When shall we invite your parents for dinner? Our families should meet. You're neither of you young anymore. Best to settle the marriage arrangement soon. My vision went black. I didn't want to break up, afraid I'd never get another chance like this. But if we were really to get married, I wouldn't be happy about it either. I forced a smile and made some excuses, then went back and broke up with Dominic. It was simple. Once we married, there would be no turning back. And do I love Dominic? I don't know. My love had burned out once long ago. Occasional rekindlings aren't enough to carry us through a long life together. Dominic's shoulders slumped as he looked at me in silence. Olivia, you're the strangest, most peculiar person I've ever met. I walked silently toward the door, only to find he had locked it. Do you realize this is unlawful confinement? Furious eyes slapped him hard across the face. First time strangers, second time friends. This time I knew exactly how to hurt him the most. Dominic leaned in with a smile. Go ahead, hit me if you want, get it all out, but this isn't over between us. Like a sinister serpent, he coiled around me, holding me tight. Never ending. 14. Dominic confiscated all my electronic devices and took me to an island getaway. It was the place I had always dreamed of visiting with him. I said I wanted to watch the sunset, learn to scuba dive, and go surfing with him. Back then Dominic never had time. Now he's acting out of character. After exhausting me at night, he still has energy to carry me out to watch the sunrise. Unfortunately, it's been overcast these days with pouring rain, and the view is far from ideal. We sit in silence. I clear my throat. After we broke up, I came here with Paula. At that time my heart ached so badly I could die. I cried until my eyes were swollen and my vision blurred, devoid of any energy for anything. Paula scolded me for being lovesick, asking why some things had to wait for a boyfriend to accompany me. Whether you go or not, the scenery remains right there. So I mustered my last ounce of strength to come here and witnessed the most beautiful sunset in the world. As the sun sank below the horizon, I suddenly burst into tears. At that moment my world abruptly expanded, no longer seeing only love. So it's too late, isn't it? I'm always one step behind. Dominic had grown haggard, his eyes bloodshot with fatigue. I know he tosses and turns at night, checking repeatedly to make sure I'm still by his side. But I don't really care. He took my hand and pressed it to his lips. But you must at least give me one last chance to atone, to make it up to you. I won't fail you again. I shook my head. Neither of us was truly at fault. It was just that love had slipped out of sync across time and space. 15 on the night before leaving the island, the hotel suddenly began to tremble violently. Dominic frantically shook me awake. Earthquake, he said. I bolted upright and saw sheer terror in his eyes. A curse got stuck in my belly with no time to be spat out. If he hadn't tied me up and brought me to this godforsaken place, I wouldn't be in such a mess. This was no time for petty grievances. The skyscrapers were swaying precariously, but I failed to notice the crystal chandelier plummeting straight toward my head. Dominic swiftly grabbed me and shielded me beneath him. Blood, it splattered everywhere around us. Dominic, I screamed, rushing to check his injuries. A massive gash had been torn across his lower back. I tore off my own clothes to staunch the bleeding as emergency first aid, but his blood seemed to flow endlessly. Dominic's lips grew paler and paler. I frantically called for an ambulance, begging Dominic not to fall asleep. His hand gripped mine tightly as he struggled to pull a small square box from his pocket. It was an engagement ring. I remembered this object. I had seen it in his study drawer right after we got back together. So he had already prepared it back then. His eyes glistened with tears, his lips trembling uncontrollably. In the face of natural disasters, power and wealth are utterly powerless. At this moment, without the barriers of pride and prejudice, we degraded into the most ordinary pair of lovers. If we can survive this, will you marry me? My mind was in chaos when suddenly I remembered reading Eileen Chong's Love in a Fallen City a long time ago. Two people who had been scheming against each other finally squeezed out the last shred of sincerity when the city fell. I nodded absently as Dominic slipped the ring onto my finger, then passed out from excessive blood loss. Paramedics rushed to my side, babbling a stream of words. I can't remember how I responded. At this very drinking gathering, Dominic signed the investment agreement with a grand flourish. 16 after returning home, Dominic and I quickly held our wedding. Stephen came to witness the ceremony, raising his glass in my direction. In private, he sneered. I thought you wouldn't stoop to such cliches, marrying someone you don't love. Between the lines, his meaning was clear. He thought me a gold digger trading sincerity for wealth. So what? Plenty of men do the same. Why aren't they being criticized? Besides, whether in love or money, Dominic is my best option. I stood there in my white wedding dress, arguing with him. Marriage is merely a woman's most primitive means of survival. I decided long ago that I would make any sacrifice to climb upward. I always face myself with complete honesty, accepting my own dark side. Dominic's hand hovered lightly at my waist. When I proposed, you cried nearly to the point of fainting. That wasn't what you said then. He provocatively looked at Stephen, watching the other flee in panic. I was lying to you. I was afraid you might really die, and then no one would give me money anymore. I looked at him with a half smile. My husband had matured excessively, knowing better than to get angry at such words from me. He caressed my wedding ring generously, sharing half of his wealth with me. Whether it's love or not, at least we belong to each other now. Love requires prolonged struggle and contention before it reveals its true heart. Our contest has only just begun.